The unexpected encounter Captain Marcus Rivera adjusted his collar as he stepped into the elegant dining hall aboard the neutral station Harmony Point. The crystalline walls reflected the distant stars, creating an ethereal atmosphere that somehow made his Earth-issued uniform feel inadequate. He had expected a standard diplomatic dinner with the Valerian trade delegation, not this intimate setting with a single dining companion. Across the room, Zephyra Nightwhisper sat gracefully at a table overlooking the void of space. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow under the ambient lighting, and her silver hair cascaded down her shoulders like liquid moonlight. The Valerian female wore traditional robes that spoke of nobility and ancient customs. Her 4 violet eyes tracked his movement with predatory grace. Marcus approached with measured steps, his military training keeping his posture straight despite the nervousness churning in his stomach. The Valerians were known for their complex social hierarchies and rigid cultural protocols. One wrong move could derail the crucial trade negotiations Earth desperately needed. "Captain Rivera," Zephyra spoke, her voice carrying musical undertones that seemed to resonate in his chest. "I trust your journey from Earth was comfortable?" "Please call me Marcus," he replied, extending his hand in the universal human greeting. "And yes, thank you for asking." Zephyra stared at the offered hand with obvious confusion. On Valeria, physical contact between unmarked individuals was strictly forbidden. Marcus quickly withdrew his hand, mentally cursing his cultural oversight. "Forgive me," he said, settling into the chair across from her. "I'm still learning your customs." "Indeed," Zephyra replied, her secondary eyes studying him with scientific curiosity. "Your species has such peculiar social behaviors. Tell me, Captain, is it true that human males and females engage in activities as equals?" Marcus blinked, unsure how to respond to such a direct question. "Well, yes. We believe in equal partnerships. Men and women share responsibilities, make decisions together, and support each other mutually." The Valerian's 4 eyes widened simultaneously, a clear sign of shock in her species. She leaned back as if he had just confessed to some unspeakable crime. "How fascinating," she murmured, though her tone suggested she found it anything but positive. "On Valeria, males exist to serve and protect females. It is the natural order written into our very DNA." Marcus felt a familiar frustration rising. He had encountered this attitude before during his diplomatic missions. Many alien species struggled to understand human equality, viewing it as either weakness or chaos. "I can see how that might work for your species," he said carefully. "But humans have found that cooperation yields better results than hierarchy." Zephyra's laugh was like silver bells, but there was no warmth in it. "Cooperation? You mean chaos? Without proper structure, without designated roles? How does your species function at all?" "We adapt," Marcus replied simply. "We communicate, compromise, and find solutions together. It's made us stronger." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their server, a nervous-looking centaurian with multiple arms who clearly sensed the tension at the table. The creature quickly placed their meals before them and retreated without a word. Marcus looked down at his plate, recognizing none of the colorful substances arranged artfully before him. The diplomatic briefings had mentioned Valerian cuisine, but had failed to prepare him for the reality of eating unidentifiable alien food. "You seem disturbed by the meal," Zephyra observed, delicately picking at her portion with specialized utensils. "Humans are supposedly adaptable, are they not?" "We are," Marcus confirmed, taking a tentative bite. The flavors exploded across his palate in ways his taste buds had never experienced. Sweet, sour, and something indefinably alien combined in a symphony that was both delightful and overwhelming. "Interesting," Zephyra continued. "If your species is so adaptable, why do you insist on imposing your social structures on others?" Marcus set down his utensil, recognizing that this dinner was about more than food or even trade negotiations. This was a cultural examination, and he was the specimen under study. Cultural collision. The tension in the dining room grew thicker than the station's recycled atmosphere. Marcus realized that every word he spoke was being analyzed, cataloged, and likely reported back to the Valerian High Council. This wasn't just a diplomatic dinner, it was an interrogation disguised as social courtesy. "I'm not trying to impose anything," Marcus said, keeping his voice level. "I'm simply explaining how human society functions. We've found that when people work together as equals, regardless of gender, we achieve remarkable things." Zephyra's 4 violet eyes studied him with the intensity of a scientist examining a particularly interesting specimen. Her silver hair shimmered as she tilted her head in a gesture that seemed both elegant and dismissive. "Remarkable things," she repeated, her musical voice carrying a note of skepticism. "Like your wars, your environmental destruction, your constant conflicts over resources?" Marcus felt heat rise to his cheeks but forced himself to remain diplomatic. "We've made mistakes, yes, but we've also learned from them. Our equal partnerships have led to incredible advances in science, art, and technology. We've eliminated diseases, explored space, and created art that speaks to the soul." "How quaint," Zephyra replied, taking another delicate bite of her meal. "On Valeria, our males dedicate their entire existence to serving their female partners. They provide, protect, and ensure their comfort without question. This natural order has brought us millennia of peace and prosperity." "But what about choice?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious despite his growing frustration. "What if a male wants to pursue science or art? What if a female wants to explore or fight?" The question seemed to physically strike Zephyra. Her pale blue skin flushed a deeper shade and her secondary eyes narrowed dangerously. "Choice is chaos," she declared. "When individuals abandon their biological imperatives, society crumbles. Your species proves this perfectly." Marcus leaned forward, his diplomatic training warring with his personal convictions. "Our society hasn't crumbled. We've thrived precisely because we allow choice. When my partner and I decided to pursue careers in space exploration, we supported each other's dreams equally." "Partner?" Zephyra's voice rose slightly, causing several other diners to glance in their direction. "You mean you have bonded with a female of equal standing?" "Her name is Jessica," Marcus said, a smile crossing his face despite the tense situation. "She's a xenobiologist aboard the research vessel Endeavor. We've been together for 5 years and we make all major decisions together." Zephyra set down her utensils with deliberate precision. "You allow your female to make decisions that affect your life?" "We make decisions together," Marcus corrected. "That's what partnership means." The Valerian stood abruptly, her robes flowing around her like liquid starlight. Several other diners turned to watch the spectacle, sensing drama in the making. "This is exactly what I was warned about," Zephyra announced, her voice carrying clearly across the dining hall. "Humans corrupt everything they touch with their chaotic philosophies." Marcus rose as well, his military bearing asserting itself despite the awkward situation. "Ma'am, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I was told this was a diplomatic dinner to discuss trade agreements." "It was meant to be an evaluation," Zephyra replied coldly. "The High Council wanted to determine if humans could be trusted as trading partners. Your species' rejection of natural order makes you unpredictable and dangerous." "Dangerous?" Marcus couldn't keep the incredulity out of his voice. "Because we believe in equality?" "Because you believe in chaos," Zephyra countered. "Without proper hierarchy, without established roles, how can we trust you to honor agreements? How can we predict your behavior?" The dining hall had grown quiet, with representatives from a dozen species watching the exchange with keen interest. Marcus realized that this moment would likely be reported throughout the galactic community, potentially affecting Earth's relationships with multiple civilizations. "Our equality isn't chaos," Marcus said, his voice carrying the conviction of his beliefs. "It's our greatest strength. When humans work together, when we combine our different perspectives and abilities without regard to arbitrary hierarchies, we accomplish the impossible." Zephyra's laugh was sharp and bitter. "Impossible? Like arriving at this station 3 days late because your navigation crew couldn't agree on the optimal route?" Marcus felt his face burn. The delayed arrival had been embarrassing, but it had ultimately resulted in a more efficient path being discovered. "We were late because we found a better way. Our navigators debated, tested different options, and discovered a route that's now being used by merchant vessels throughout this sector. Chaos masquerading as progress, Zephyra dismissed. On Valeria, the designated navigator would have chosen. The established route and arrival would have been punctual and predictable. And slower, Marcus added pointedly. Revealing true intentions. The standoff in the dining hall continued, with Marcus and Zephyra facing each other across a gulf of cultural differences that seemed impossible to bridge. The other patrons had abandoned all pretense of minding their own business, openly staring at the diplomatic drama unfolding before them. Marcus took a deep breath, his diplomatic training finally overriding his personal frustration. Zephyra, I think we've gotten off on the wrong foot. Perhaps we could start over and discuss our actual trade proposals. There will be no trade agreements, Zephyra declared, her 4 violet eyes blazing with conviction. The High Council has already made their decision. This dinner was merely to confirm what we suspected about human nature. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. Earth had invested months in preparing for these negotiations, desperately needing the rare minerals that Valeria could provide. Without these resources, several crucial infrastructure projects would fail, potentially setting back human expansion into space by decades. I don't understand, Marcus said, fighting to keep his voice steady. Our preliminary discussions indicated mutual benefit. Valeria needs our agricultural technology and we need your mining expertise. Zephyra moved closer, her pale blue skin almost luminescent in the starlight filtering through the crystalline walls. We needed to observe a human male in a social situation, to see if the reports about your species were accurate. What reports? Marcus demanded, sensing a deeper game at play. Intelligence gathered from other species you've encountered, Zephyra replied with obvious satisfaction. The Andromedans report that human females often take command positions. The Kepler colonies describe mixed-gender exploration teams where females make critical decisions. The Tau Ceti trading posts speak of human couples who share authority. Equally, Marcus stared at her, understanding dawning like a cold sunrise. You've been gathering intelligence on human social structures specifically to use against us in trade negotiations. Of course, Zephyra confirmed without shame. The galaxy has rules, Captain Rivera. Species that cannot maintain proper order are unreliable partners. Your chaotic approach to gender roles makes you unsuitable for serious commerce. Chaotic? Marcus's voice rose despite his efforts at diplomatic restraint. We've established peaceful colonies on 47 worlds, maintained trade relationships with dozens of species, and haven't had a major war in over a century. How is that chaotic? Because it's unsustainable, Zephyra insisted. Without proper hierarchy, without established roles, your society will eventually collapse. We cannot risk our economic stability on such an uncertain foundation. Marcus felt, his anger transforming into something else, determination. You want to see human cooperation in action? You want to understand how our partnerships work? He activated his personal communicator, the device projecting a holographic interface into the space between them. Jessica, are you available for a conversation? The hologram shimmered and resolved into the image of a woman with short auburn hair and intelligent green eyes. She wore the blue jumpsuit of a research scientist, and her face lit up with a warm smile when she saw Marcus. Marcus, how's the diplomatic dinner going? Jessica's voice carried clearly through the dining hall, causing several aliens to lean forward with curiosity. It's been educational, Marcus replied dryly. Jessica, I'd like you to meet Zephyra Nightwhisper from Valeria. She's been explaining to me why human partnerships are chaotic and unreliable. Jessica's expression shifted to professional interest. Oh, the Valerians, I've read about their matriarchal society. Fascinating evolutionary adaptations to their twin-sun environment. The calcium deposits in their skeletal structure must make them incredibly resilient. Zephyra's 4 eyes widened in surprise. She had clearly expected a subservient human female, not a confident scientist who immediately demonstrated knowledge of Valerian physiology. You study our species? Zephyra asked, her musical voice carrying a note of uncertainty for the first time. I study all species we encounter, Jessica replied cheerfully. It's essential for establishing positive relationships. For instance, I know that Valerian females have enhanced spatial reasoning due to their role as traditional navigators, while males developed superior pattern recognition for resource location. Marcus watched Zephyra's expression change from dismissive superiority to grudging interest. Jessica continued speaking, her enthusiasm for her subject evident. What I find particularly interesting is how your species evolved complementary abilities rather than competitive ones. It suggests a deeply cooperative evolutionary history, despite the hierarchical social structure. You appreciate our evolutionary design? Zephyra asked hesitantly. Absolutely, Jessica confirmed. Every species develops unique solutions to survival challenges. Humans evolved as cooperative hunters, which is why we tend toward egalitarian structures. But that doesn't make our approach superior to yours, it just makes it different. Marcus felt a surge of pride and love for his partner. In minutes, Jessica had accomplished what he had failed to do. In an hour, shift the conversation from confrontation to understanding. This is most unexpected, Zephyra admitted, her hostile demeanor softening slightly. The power of partnership. The holographic projection of Jessica continued to command attention from everyone in the dining hall. Even the Centaurian. Servers had stopped their work to listen, their multiple arms gesturing in what Marcus recognized as signs of approval in their species. Zephyra, Jessica continued, her scientific curiosity evident in every word. I've been studying the trade proposals between our species, and I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about what we're each offering. Misunderstanding? Zephyra's violet eyes focused intently on the hologram. Marcus, could you show her the agricultural data? Jessica asked. The files I prepared yesterday? Without hesitation, Marcus accessed his personal files and projected the requested information into the shared space. Complex charts and biological models materialized around them, showing agricultural innovations and crop yields. These aren't just farming techniques, Jessica explained, manipulating the holographic data with practiced ease. They're adaptive biological systems that could revolutionize food production on worlds with multiple suns like Valeria. Zephyra stepped closer to examine the data, her scientific training overriding her cultural prejudices. These yield projections. They cannot be accurate. They are, Jessica assured her. We developed them specifically for dual-star systems after studying your world's environmental reports. Marcus suggested the project after reading about Valerian agricultural challenges in the preliminary trade documents. Marcus watched Zephyra's expression transform as she realized the implications. You collaborated on this research? Of course, Jessica replied as if it were the most natural thing in the galaxy. Marcus has an intuitive understanding of resource allocation from his military background, while I bring the biological expertise. Together we solved problems neither of us could tackle alone. But who made the final decisions? Zephyra pressed, clearly struggling with the concept. We both did, Marcus answered. We discussed every aspect, debated alternatives, and chose the best solutions regardless of who proposed them. Zephyra turned to study Marcus with new intensity. And this causes no conflict between you? Sometimes we disagree, Jessica laughed, from her projection. Last month we had a heated debate about resource distribution in the Centauri colonies. I wanted to prioritize medical facilities, while Marcus focused on defensive installations. How was this resolved? Zephyra asked, leaning forward with obvious fascination. We found a third option, Marcus explained, combined medical defense stations that serve both purposes more efficiently than separate facilities. The solution was better than either of our original ideas, Jessica added. That's the power of true partnership. You get innovations that neither person could achieve alone. The dining hall had grown completely silent except for the quiet hum of the station's life support systems. Representatives from multiple species watched the human couple demonstrate their collaborative relationship in real time. Zephyra sat down heavily, her elegant composure cracking. This contradicts everything we were told about human chaos. Who told you we were chaotic? Marcus asked gently, sensing a breakthrough. The Hegemony Council, Zephyra admitted reluctantly. They warned us that humans upset established orders wherever they go. that your equality concepts were dangerous to galactic stability. Jessica's holographic image frowned. The Hegemony Council? Aren't they the coalition of species that maintain strict caste systems? Yes, Zephyra confirmed, then stopped as understanding dawned on her face. They view human equality as a threat to their social structures. Not just a threat, Marcus realized. A proof that their systems aren't the only way to organize society. If humans can succeed with equality, it challenges the fundamental assumptions of every hierarchical species. The revelation hung in the air like a gravitational field, bending everything around it. Other diners began murmuring among themselves, processing the implications of what they had witnessed. You were set up? Jessica said softly. The Hegemony Council wanted you to reject Earth's trade proposals to isolate us from potential allies. Zephyra's 4 eyes closed in what Marcus recognized as a gesture of deep contemplation among her species. When she opened them, her expression had completely transformed. Captain Rivera, Dr. Chen, she said formally, I owe you both an apology. I came here prepared to find chaos and found instead a demonstration of cooperative strength that challenges everything I thought I knew about social organization. No apology necessary, Marcus replied diplomatically, though internally he felt relief flooding through him. Cultural misunderstandings are inevitable when species first encounter each other. This was more than misunderstanding, Zephyra corrected. This was deliberate deception by those who fear change. The question now is what we do with this knowledge. Jessica's projection smiled warmly. We do what humans always do when faced with a challenge. We adapt, cooperate, and find a solution that works for everyone. New alliances. The transformation in the dining hall was palpable. What had begun as a tense diplomatic dinner had evolved into something unprecedented, an interspecies revelation about the nature of cooperation and social organization. Representatives from various civilizations had abandoned their meals to listen, many recording the conversation for later analysis. Zephyra stood slowly, her pale blue skin shimmering with an inner light that Marcus now recognized as a sign of emotional intensity in her species. Dr. Chen, Captain Rivera, I must ask you something that may seem strange. Ask away, Jessica's hologram replied warmly. Would you be willing to demonstrate your partnership model to the Valerian High Council? Not as a diplomatic presentation, but as a practical example. Marcus exchanged a glance with Jessica's projection, both understanding the magnitude of what was being proposed. What exactly would that involve? A joint mission, Zephyra explained, her musical voice carrying new energy. Valeria has a mining operation on Kepler 442b that's been failing for months. Our traditional hierarchy approach isn't working. The planet's unique challenges require constant adaptation and creative problem-solving. You want us to help solve a mining crisis using our partnership approach? Marcus asked, making sure he understood correctly. More than that, Zephyra continued, I want to work alongside you both, to experience this cooperative methodology firsthand and report back to the High Council with actual data, rather than theoretical concerns. The proposal was audacious and potentially dangerous. If they failed, it would confirm every negative assumption about human social organization. If they succeeded, it could revolutionize interspecies cooperation throughout the galaxy. What about the Hegemony Council? Jessica asked, her scientific mind already identifying potential complications. They won't appreciate having their narrative challenged. Zephyra's 4 violet eyes flashed with something that looked remarkably like human determination. The Hegemony Council has manipulated Valerian policy for too long. It's time my people made decisions based on evidence rather than fear. Marcus felt the familiar thrill that came with accepting a dangerous mission. Jessica, what's your assessment of the mining situation on Kepler 442b? The hologram flickered as Jessica accessed remote databases. Interesting. The planet has a crystalline core that creates electromagnetic fluctuations. Traditional mining techniques would fail because they rely on consistent equipment performance. Exactly the problem, Zephyra confirmed. Our male workers follow established protocols perfectly, but the protocols don't work when conditions change. constantly. But adaptive problem-solving would, Marcus realized. Teams that can adjust their approach in real time, regardless of who has the best idea at any given moment. A perfect test case for human partnership principles, Jessica agreed. Marcus, I could take a research sabbatical from Endeavor. The data we'd collect could be invaluable for future diplomatic relationships. Around the dining hall, conversations buzzed with excitement. The Centaurian ambassador was speaking rapidly into his communicator, while a group of Andromedan traders discussed the implications in their melodic language. There's another consideration, Marcus said carefully. If we succeed, other species might want to observe our methods. This could become much larger than a simple mining operation. Zafira nodded slowly. I've been thinking the same thing. The Tau Ceti collective has been struggling with resource distribution conflicts. The Rigel colonies can't coordinate their defense systems effectively. Half the galaxy's problems stem from rigid social structures that can't adapt to new challenges. You're talking about a fundamental shift in how species interact, Jessica observed, her excitement evident even through the holographic projection. I'm talking about survival, Zephyr replied with startling intensity. The galaxy is changing. New threats are emerging from unexplored regions, resource conflicts are increasing, and climate changes are affecting dozens of worlds. Species that can't adapt will become extinct. The weight of her words settled over the dining hall like a blanket. Marcus realized they were discussing more than trade agreements or mining operations. They were potentially shaping the future of galactic civilization. All right, Marcus said, making the decision that would change everything. We'll do it, but we need full transparency with all parties involved. No hidden agendas, no manipulation, just honest cooperation. Agreed, Zephyra said immediately. Full partnership in every sense. Jessica's hologram smiled brightly. Then let's show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when we work together as equals. As if responding to some unseen signal, the dining hall erupted in a cacophony of voices, as representatives from multiple species began requesting meetings, proposing their own cooperative experiments, and discussing the implications of what they had witnessed. Marcus looked around at the chaos of excited conversations and realized something profound had just occurred. What had started as a simple diplomatic dinner had become the catalyst for a new era of interspecies cooperation. Zephyra, he said, extending his hand once again. This time, she took it without hesitation. Partners? He asked. Partners, she confirmed, her 4 violet eyes shining with hope for a future neither of their species had imagined possible. The revolution had begun not with weapons or wars, but with a simple conversation about equality, partnership, and the courage to challenge established assumptions. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the galaxy began to change.